VigilAni Burrito coming to you live. Well, not live, but certainly alive and wide awake from beautiful Miami. I thought I'd shoot this video outdoors today to share some of this loveliness with you. And welcome. Welcome to my new channel, VigilAni, where all are welcome, preferably with an open mind, as you will certainly be better served with one. Although I have to say, I welcome all. If anyone comes across my channel who is particularly narrow-minded, fixed in their ways, over-identifies with their beliefs, and or is easily offended, I would encourage you all the more to stick around, for you may very well find here the panacea for your malaise. So, with that disclaimer out of the way, today I'm going to kick things off with some much needed levity and taking a look at our current circumstances through the lens of humor, and how in so doing that will facilitate us shifting our perspective in a way that will allow for solutions to come forth for these trying times that we're all experiencing. And today what I'm going to be presenting is an all-time favorite cartoon. Yes, we are going to be talking about cartoons today, but not just any cartoons. These cartoons, these cartoon characters have been around for, have been around longer than most of us have been alive. And it's certainly a favorite of my childhood, and likewise for many of us. And those characters are the Looney Tunes cartoons. Now, what I'm going to be doing is presenting a short character analysis, more of an overview of what these characters represent, both the protagonists and the antagonists, and what we can glean from these characters and apply in our current state of society and the world. Okay? So, and I mean, really, there's no better time than now. It's the 11th hour, folks. Now, the creators of Looney Tunes are unaware of the fact, or were unaware of the fact, that they completely channeled these characters. As some of you may know, I am a medium. I've been channeling since 1995, and this is information that I got so many years ago, but it has always remained close to the surface for me because of the truth that it holds and the validity of it. So I am really looking forward to sharing this with you, and we're gonna start things off taking a look at the antagonists, the troublemakers, and what they represent, and what these characters personify are the 7 mortal sins that are pride, greed, envy, wrath or rage, gluttony, lust, and the 7th, which is sloth, is conspicuously missing in this cast of characters, and there's a reason for that, and that will resolve when we take a look at the protagonists. These 7 behaviors or misbehaviors are glaringly present in those people in power. And the cluster B personality disorder, which encompasses narcissism. When I say narcissism, I'm not referring to the common vernacular of, oh my God, he's such a narcissist. No. I'm talking about the personality disorder, the malignant disorder, which runs on a spectrum from narcissism, borderline personality disorder, into the sociopathy and psychopathy, which now have been relabeled as antisocial personality disorder, and quite frankly, in my opinion, for whatever that's worth, which is obviously worth nothing, but in my opinion, this new nomenclature really doesn't do justice to the actions and behaviors of these cluster B people. But I will refer to them as the psychos as the need arises. So the problem, one of the problems that we are facing in dealing with these people is that they don't think like we do. They have no emotional empathy. You can't use logic or reason or common sense examples in any argument or presentation of facts to them because none of it works. None of it works. They don't, like I said, they don't think like we do. So it's imperative that we, and by we I mean all of humanity, becomes not only familiarized but well versed and come to a solid understanding of how these people function. They don't think like we do. They have no emotional empathy. So sympathy, empathy, suffering, they feed off of all of that, literally and figuratively, energetically, rather. Now, I'm not a psychologist, but I have a pretty firm understanding of psychology and something I've been interested in my whole life. But over the course of the last, I'd say about solid 5 or 6 years, I delved into the study and research of these individuals, the narcissists and borderlines and socio and psychopaths. I don't want to get too far off topic, but primarily because I've dealt with these people in my own personal life and in my family. And I always knew there was something wrong with them, but how could they do the things they do, and why don't they make any sense, and they don't see things, in a way that comes from a human perspective, until I came across the cluster B personality disorders. And there is where the sky just, everything opened up and everything started making sense. So, because of this, from my own personal experience, which, by the way, what I present here, I don't hit you with theory. I can present information to you, and I will consistently, but I just want to be clear. What I present here is from an experiential point of view, things that I've experienced in my own life. So as I was saying, it's really crucial to understand how these people think, how they function, what their inner workings are, so we can begin to deal with them effectively. And to that end, I can point you in the direction of Richard Brannon on YouTube, who is fantastic. He has a thorough understanding and knowledge, great in explaining all these topics. And there's also Sam Vaknin, albeit he is considerably less palatable than Brannon. Vaknin is a narcissist himself, and he's not just any narcissist. Okay, he is the one who, for reasons you can hear him tell you, really did all the research and presented what was before the 1990s, when he came along, non-existent information on how to deal with these individuals. Another one that I recommend, he's a little bit more controversial, but I certainly have extracted much from his channel, and that is H.G. Tudor. He gets more into detail of, again, how these people think and how to deal with them. Not to sound redundant, but also he gives many case studies and even roasts of celebrities, people that are famous, their behaviors that are kind of out in the world for all to see, and he uses those as an example. All of these people will offer you an enormous amount of insight and understanding into what we're dealing with. And I don't say that lightly. this is the part I'm not being light about. This is serious. And you know, if you only listen to one, I would say Richard Grannon. So give him a check out on YouTube and dive in, folks. This is it's a matter of our survival. And I know it may seem paradoxical to present humor as an option for dealing with these circumstances that we find ourselves in and with these individuals. But give me a moment and I'll show you why it's not paradoxical. Now we're going to be taking a look at the protagonists, the heroes. These mosquitoes are coming out. I need to hurry this up. The heroes of Looney Tunes and who these three characters are and what they have in common. Number one is my childhood hero, my main man, the star of the show, Bugs Bunny, the Roadrunner, and Speedy Gonzales. Now, what we can extract from these three characters, they have a few things in common. Number one, they don't take anybody too seriously, and I abide by that. I don't take anybody too seriously, myself included, primarily because it disables me from taking anybody else too seriously, which is a huge aid in life. So anyway, back to the characters. They don't take anybody too seriously. They're always a couple steps ahead of their persecutors that are riding them and grinding them down and trying to destroy them, as we're experiencing today. And all three of those characters are in a state always of perpetual motion. They're in constant movement. Bugs is always traveling underground, popping up in different places. Roadrunner, needless to say, is constantly going, and little Speedy Gonzales is a master of speed and mobility. And the takeaway here is that with these characters, there is no stasis. Just like in nature, there is no stasis. Lack of movement, lack of mobility, lack of being mobilized in the face of adversity will only bring the following: stagnation, breakdown, atrophy, decay, and ultimate death. So, it's time to really take a look at that three-pronged approach of not taking them too seriously, and by that I mean not hanging on their words, believing the drivel and perpetual stream of lies that we are fed 24/7, 365. People turned off the news. Stop giving attention and energy to these people, because it's a constant stream of attention and energy that is freely given by most people to these assholes in power. So, you know, with that said, it's like I was saying, it's time to really take a look at these three characters, what they represent, and to utilize these tactics as an approach in dealing with these, I call them the disempowered. You know, we always refer to them as being in power and the powerful and the elite. You know what they are? They're disempowered. Because when you're truly empowered, there's no need for such overcompensation. Okay? So I will be referring to them as the disempowered from here on out. Now, one very important thing to note with these cluster B disordered, which I don't know if I mentioned before, but it really is a prerequisite to being to holding these positions, high positions of power. Aside from not having empathy, common sense, the use of logic and reason, and I didn't mention this before, but these disordered individuals, which to me are mentally disordered, not just personality disordered, but again, that's my opinion. But from observation and experience, there's no doubt it's a mental disorder. So what is noteworthy also with these individuals is they don't have a sense of humor. And that is precisely the chink in their armor that is oh so easy to penetrate. Let me tell you something. The cluster B groups, narcissists, all of them. We're beyond labels at this point. These toxic people, these toxic creatures, who it's up to debate whether they even have a remnant of a soul in them or not, but that's a topic for another video. They run a script in their head. They have a very set way of, Coast Guard helicopter. So, as I was saying, these creatures have a very set way and very similar patterns of behavior. And one thing they have in common is they have a script running through their head as to how they think things will pan out. In, more importantly, how we will react. Our reactions feed them. Fear, shock, sadness, pain, suffering. Feed the creatures. Feed the creatures. So we need to flip things around. And that starts with our reactions to their actions. This is very important. As I was saying, these people run a script in their head. So if things don't fall in line with how they think it's going to pan out, how things are going to pan out based on their actions, how we're going to react, how things are going to play out, you throw a monkey wrench into the mix and it completely throws them off. They go into cognitive shutdown. I've seen it happen, and even if their cognitive shutdown is for a brief moment, it's nonetheless effective. So we need to bring back humor for those who have lost it, resuscitate it. And if you think humor does not play a role in getting us to solutions, you need to think again. And here's why. Laughter, which stems from humor. Laughter is both generated by and at the same time also generates joy. Joy is an extremely high vibrating frequency. And let me put a pin on that for a second. Now, I have to say clearly, I'm not suggesting that humor is the end-all, be-all, one-dose pill cure-all for the state of the world. But it's certainly a good start. Obviously, I'm not suggesting, like I said, that humor is the end-all, be-all. However, when we look at laughter, in the words of Robert Plant in the song Remains the Same, does anybody remember laughter? Anyway, back to my point. So when we look at joy and the frequency that carries, joy has a very high frequency, what we would refer to as high frequency. And just as an aside, and I want to mention this, we, and by we I mean the awakened, we tend to make a lot of references to energy and frequency and vibe and vibration, and it's usually referred to in the context of either a high or a low vibration. But I have to tell you, it has nothing to do with levels. In other words, it's not about a high vibration being up here and a low vibration being down here. It's not about altitude. It's about speed and oscillation. Slow frequencies or low frequencies vibrate and move, oscillate at much lower frequencies than, say, your high vibe or your high frequency. What it's actually doing is it's vibrating at a very fast frequency. So joy being a very fast frequency that uplifts. I mean, think about it. I'm sure who here hasn't experienced laughter through tears, where in a moment you go from, not completely, but you can go from sadness or anger. If something or someone throws something at you that's funny and makes you laugh in that moment, your state of mind immediately shifts. The energy shifts. It frees up the mind. It loosens the shackles of either fear or sadness or anger, and really creates a space for clarity to come through. The other thing that it does is it immediately shifts the dynamic between not only within yourself with what's going on, but within the context of any other individual or thing that you are contending with at that point. It really does shift the energy. And what that does is to help restore the imbalance, in this case, in the scales of power, and grant us some firm footing, to regain some firm footing on level ground, which is rapidly being eroded from under us. So don't underestimate the power of humor, laughter, and joy. It holds much of what we need right now. So as you can see, it's extremely important that we implement humor into the equation of solving the conundrum of our times. I'm going to say it again. If you think humor doesn't play a role in getting us some clarity, answers, ammunition, and effective solutions in dealing with the assholes in power, you need to think again. I assure you that by injecting humor and irreverence, I'm going to say it again, irreverence is key in dealing with the cycles in power. You need to think again. And in closing, I'd like to bring up a character that merits an honorable mention, and that character is Tweety. What Tweety represents is the androgynous soul trapped in a cage, being the observer, unaware of his own imprisonment, kept in place by the well-meaning yet oblivious human. That is Granny. Another thing I'd like to point out is, there are still a lot of people that are asleep, needless to say. They slumber, right? But in all fairness, any of you who have been on your path and have been aware for more than a handful of years would probably agree with this, that way more people are awake and aware today than there were, say, 20, 30 years ago. So, in all fairness, there are many more people that are awake today, and I can vouch for that. We've come a long way. We still have a long way to go, for a great part of the population continues to slumber. However, not everyone is going to see. Not everyone is going to wake up. And if we're going to wait for the rest of humanity to rouse from their sleep, we're going to be waiting for eons. And we don't have that kind of time. So it falls on us which is why I'm here. Those of us who see and have a different perspective and who know what's really going on. Despite what the naysayers say, those of us who see and know and are aware and wide awake, it's time for us to come together, unite, and figure this shit out with whatever means it takes. And like I said, humor is not the end-all be-all, but it's definitely a good place to start. And it is, no doubt in my mind, one of the parts of a multi-pronged approach to the predicament that we're in. Unlike tweeting, it's time to rattle the cage till the bars come crashing down. I'll leave you with that, and until next time, thank you for your time. Thanks for tuning in. And until we meet again, much love and laughter. See you soon.